Discussing his musical preferences, guitarist Marty Friedman noted that he's not a fan of Jimi Hendrix whatsoever. Mr. Friedman explained that Hendrix associates him with hippies on acid rolling in mud, something he's just not into that much. "I'd rather chew glass than listen to Hendrix," he said. "I never got Hendrix. When I think of Hendrix, an image comes in my mind about a lot of hippies rolling around in mud tripping on acid, and it just doesn't turn me on at all. And all that noise and feedback, and I'm like, play and tune. I'm a big tuning guy, and that's probably why I don't like Bob Dylan, because things go out of tune, and it kills me. But then again, all of my favorite guitarists hail Hendrix. I'm a big Uli Jon Roth fan, and he's the most beautiful guitarist. He probably loves Hendrix as much as Hendrix's own mother does. All the guys I respect love Hendrix, so I know there's something there. It's just that I never got it, because it never fit into my experiences." Friedman also noted that he could never get into Bob Dylan's music, despite his Cacophony bandmate and longtime friend Jason Becker being a huge Dylan fan, ultimately adding, "There are certainly no good and no bad in music. It's all what it means to you. It has nothing to do with tonality or pitch or talent or tone or any of those things. It has everything to do with the experiences in your life around this music."
Marty Friedman explained why he didn't rejoin Megadeth following the departure of Chris Broderick and Shawn Drover, telling LA Weekly, "I think anyone that has something as good as Rust in Peace in their history doesn't want to revisit it unless you are going to top it. I didn't see any reason to mess with that. I didn't see a reunion being what it could be and what the fans deserved. If I were to revisit that, there would have to be a reason for me to do that beyond, let's go back and do it again. That's not a good enough reason." Dave Mustaine previously said about the failed reunion, Marty had sent some emails saying, "Oh, man, you know, the fans have this self-inflated importance of Rust in Peace beyond what it really is." And I was, like, huh? So I didn't know if that was a backhand to the face of the fans or not, but he had basically said that if we were gonna do anything, it had to be better than Rust in Peace. And he sent me over some links to some songs that he thought should be the direction that we were going in, and one of it was this J-pop band with some Japanese girl singing, and I was, like, this ain't gonna work. More power to him. Do what you want, Marty. He's a great guitar player. But I'm not gonna sing like a Japanese girl. In an interview with Brave Words, guitarist Marty Friedman explained what exactly bugs him about shred dudes. He said, pointing out that he rarely listens to shredders these days, "This is why I don't like being dumped into this shredder thing. What I always hear when I hear that music is just these drum beats that are just whatever. It's like the guitarist could not care less about what's backing him up. It's got amazing chops, dexterity for days, but the bass playing and the drum playing is just like all these advanced musicians playing. And there's just absolutely not a second thought given to arrangement, melody, waves of emotion, power, contrast, nothing. It's just showing how rad they are on the guitar. And I despise that with every fiber of my being. Although I admire a lot of the abilities of these players." Asked if he uses any sort of secret weapon to avoid this cliché, Marty replied, "I utilize the arrangement of the song to get excitement in the feeling of the song. And if you come off saying, I like the song, that's great. If you come away saying, he's a great guitar player, I probably failed. If you come off saying, I had a great time and I feel good, that's great. If you say I've got great chops, then I failed. Because I had great chops when I was 16 years old. Couldn't care less. It's all about listening to music, and going, I want to hear that again. And I can really feel that way about instrumental music. Of course, I feel that way all the time about other music, pop music, rock music, metal music, dance music. What do those have? Great arrangements, great melodies, great songs. Sometimes the chorus is bumped up like 2, 3 BPM, to give it that little subliminal excitement. There's a billion tricks. I'm doing everything that's in that music in my instrumental music." Finally, another interesting bit, asked about his songwriting process, Marty revealed that he discards much more music than he releases. He said, "If the song is not kicking my ass, I just throw it away. I throw away 90% of everything. The idea of concentrate, like orange juice, you need to squeeze 1,000 oranges to get juice." Guitar champion Marty Friedman shared a few words of advice to all the guitar players out there regarding speed and playing fast, explaining to Total Guitar magazine. "Here's a great tip. One thing you want to avoid is playing fast unless it's absolutely necessary. If it's not needed, then playing fast totally sucks. I hear so many people that are brilliant at playing fast, but the second they end their run, what they play completely negates anything that was cool about the fast stuff. It becomes completely lame. People spend way too long on the mechanical things. When someone holds a note or plays a great melody, that's what sounds beautiful. If you're playing fast, whether it's sloppy or accurate is something only guitar players will be able to notice. Not only that, they also don't give a shit. When you play a melody, that's when you're singing, and if it's out of tune or not good, even your grandmother can notice that. That's how much more important it is. If you get a call from Elton John about doing some session, he's not going to want to hear your 8-finger tapping arpeggios. He'll send you straight out the door. Sir Paul McCartney won't want your insane diminished shit either, you'll get fired. So think big and focus on your vibrato, make sure each note sounds nice. That's how you sound professional. For all the kids learning how to play fast like they're heroes, the hard thing is to distinguish the notes being played. Usually, the guys that play fast have a limited vocabulary, so find something where they play it at a medium tempo, and it'll probably be very similar to what they're playing really fast. So if you learn the slower stuff, it will give you big clues to what they're doing fast.
Former Megadeth guitarist Marty Friedman tells RollingStone.com that he is a huge fan of Babymetal, saying they sounds like Meshuggah, but with added Japanese pop on top of it. "I love aggressive music, death metal and stuff like that," Marty says. "But the lyrics just crack me up, the satanic stuff, I mean, really, I can't get into it. I love the sound of the music so much that I'm willing to put up with the lyrics, but why not have that same aggressive sound in something that's a little bit more realistic, you know?" He adds, "I love the sound of metal, but I've been doing it since I was a teenager, and I felt I needed to do something more unique with that sound. The sound of metal is what I love about it, but the fact that you have to stay within a genre, and you have to be in this really narrow genre, really turned me off. Babymetal, if you strip off that heavy metal guitar stuff, all you have is your basic fun, quirky, Japanese pop stuff. But the interpretation is super metal. To me, it sounds like Meshuggah with Japanese pop on top of it. So for someone like me who's been playing metal forever, it's really fresh to hear. I mean, I can hear another Pantera song, and it's great, but we've heard it before a billion times." Dave Mustaine discussed Marty Friedman's departure from Megadeth, telling Axis one of the main reasons Marty Friedman left Megadeth was because of the solo in Breadline off 1999's Risk. That was a song where Marty wanted to do the solo so badly. And he did, but when we got the song back our management said, "We don't like the solo." Marty was already gone, so I agreed to redo it. But I told them they'd have to tell Marty they didn't like his solo and wanted it redone, because I knew it was gonna cause problems. So then we're sitting in the control room and the song comes on. Everyone's there, we're all excited. I'm fat, dumb, and happy because I think they told Marty it would be my solo, not his. So the song comes up, and there's my solo. Dave Ellefson and I look over at Marty, and he's got tears coming down his face. I was like, "Oh my God. You didn't tell him." I felt terrible. Those are the little things that just fuck everything up. People don't see that part of it. They think it's my fault. I mean, sure, I had a part in it, yeah. But who forgot to tell him? Dave Mustaine also talked about all the lineup changes Megadeth went through over the years, saying that Marty Friedman had a nervous breakdown when leaving Megadeth. "It's no fun having to replace musicians. It's hard because, along with having to replace the person in the band, you usually end up having the personality loss. And very rarely do guys leave on good terms. Marty Friedman had a nervous breakdown and he quit. And I remember, it was like, did I do this?" And David Ellefson has told me after the fact everything that was going on with Marty before that happened, so I'm very happy to know it wasn't me. And a lot of the other guys, when you have to let them go, you know, it's really hard to fire somebody and remain friends with them. Unfortunately, we had to let some guys go. It's not because I don't love them, and it's not because they're not good. It's because what our vision was not a common goal anymore. I mean, there were a couple of situations where one guy called up my fiancé and said, "I fantasize about being with you when I'm with my girlfriend." And I thought, oh, you're fired. Marty Friedman goes through his top 5 tips for guitarists. 1. Be original. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of guitar hero types have a lot of people copying them. That's something I don't fit into at all, where music is learned and mastered by mechanics. I'm not taking anything away from those other players by saying that guitar fans tend to want to play like their heroes. And you can get pretty damn close to your heroes by learning all the mechanics. You can go from point A to B and C, sounding like them, if practiced those techniques a lot. That's why there are so many guys that sounded like Van Halen after he came out. 2. Ditch the scales. People tend to talk about music in relation to scales, but I don't think that way at all. I think in terms of phrases and melodies, and the interesting little inroads that go from one place to another over a chord or a series of chords. The liberating side of it is that I never had to memorize billions of different scales. The downside is that if someone asked me to play a particular scale, I couldn't do it, but that never really comes up. The point is making something sound right to your own ears, that way it doesn't have to be a memorized sequence of notes. 3. Try to refrain from playing fast 24/7. Here's a great tip. One thing you want to avoid is playing fast, unless it's absolutely necessary. If it's not needed, then playing fast totally sucks. I hear so many people that are brilliant at playing fast, but the second they end their run, what they play completely negates anything that was cool about the fast stuff. It becomes completely lame. People spend way too long on the mechanical things. 4. Pay attention to vibrato. Vibrato is very important, and there's a way to approach it. Listen to all the types you like and learn. It might be guitarists. For me, it was violins, cellos, and Chinese horns especially, as well as vocalists. Listen to the waves of how the note is being shaken. Often, a violinist will play a note completely straight with no vibrato, and then with a bit more time start wavering it a little bit. I tend to like that approach. 5. Dissect the music in your own head. You have to be able to hear a melody and dissect it at any time. For example, imagine being in a store and hearing this interesting melody. You need to immediately log that melody into your brain, as well as the chords underneath it. If you don't forget it, you can start messing with it when you get home. I did that a lot as a young guitarist, especially on tour in different countries, learning new ways to sit melodies on top of chords. You really have to log that stuff in your mind and exploit what you've learned as soon as you can. Former Megadeth guitarist Marty Friedman tells RollingStone.com that he is a huge fan of Babymetal, saying they sounds like Meshuggah, but with added Japanese pop on top of it. I love aggressive music, death metal and stuff like that, Marty says. But the lyrics just crack me up, the satanic stuff, I mean, really, I can't get into it. I love the sound of the music, so much that I'm willing to put up with the lyrics, but why not have that same aggressive sound in something that's a little bit more realistic, you know? He adds, I love the sound of metal, but I've been doing it since I was a teenager, and I felt I needed to do something more unique with that sound. The sound of metal is what I love about it, but the fact that you have to stay within a genre, and you have to be in this really narrow genre, really turned me off. Babymetal, if you strip off that heavy metal guitar stuff, all you have is your basic fun, quirky, Japanese pop stuff. But the interpretation is super metal. To me, it sounds like Meshuggah with Japanese pop on top of it. So for someone like me who's been playing metal forever, it's really fresh to hear. I mean, I can hear another Pantera song, and it's great, but we've heard it before a billion times.